The ABC News magazine Day One continues with Mark Seliger.
What happened in the tiny African nation of Rwanda last year defies the imagination. Within a year, over 500,000 people were killed in one bloody massacre after another. And while fighting there does continue between rival Hutu and Tutsi tribes, some people have begun to try to put the country back together. And as is often the case with such tragedy, what happens next doesn't defy the imagination, but inspire it. With our story, here's Sheila McVicker.
Again on 200?
Okay.
Her identity reduced to a number, this little girl is homeless and alone. She is one of 100,000 Rwandan children who were separated from their parents during the genocide. Now, 1 year later, aid agencies are still trying to register these youngsters, hoping to find a surviving relative, someone who might recognize a photograph, someone who might claim a child. But many have no one left and nowhere to go.
You're sitting at home, right, and you're watching the TV or you're reading the newspaper, you look at it and you can change the channel or flick over the page, and it's very passive, you know. And you can't really do anything at home, you know. And I guess I'm here and I'm really trying to do something. Well, we have over 10 to 12,000 unaccompanied children. And try to identify them and reunite them with the families. Obviously, in like a country where it's about 85% literate, it's really, really hard, you know, because obviously you can't do it by sort of names and addresses and various other things, because half the families haven't got any addresses anyway. Voila, missing. I mean, basically, it's just like a major identification problem. Voila, missing. I says, well, you know, we'll take a photograph of all of them. And it just happens, you know, like there's 10,000 of them. A lot of the children are very traumatized. So obviously, you know, they can't talk of various other things, and the only way of actually getting any information is purely on a photograph. Hey, Well, Kodak, after I got in touch with him, I told him about the major problem, you know, like all the orphans, and, you know, like the need of identification. He immediately said yes, you know, and they flew the film in from London, and set up like an emergency team in Nairobi within 72 hours, which was absolutely wonderful.
The photography is really coming into place where people can just come in, point at a child, write down the details, and they go home the same day.
If they're not actually like reunited with the family, then, you know, like there is like a traditional culture within like the African society of reuniting them with, you know, like the parents, friends, relatives, and within, you know, like the whole sort of village society. So even if, you know, like we're not so lucky with actually, you know, like the mother and the father, then hopefully, you know, like we will actually be able to integrate them into their own community anyway. I mean, with inside of Rwanda, this is only, you know, a tip of the iceberg, you know, like 10,000 is nothing compared to what there is left. Even if you only actually reunite a very small percentage, it's been worth it, you know, because I mean, like, it's somebody's life. That's important, you know. It really is important, so. You know, we're dealing with lives, we're not really dealing with numbers, you know. Actually, it's the most satisfying thing I've ever done in my life, you know. I mean, every single child, you know what I mean? Like, you can change their life, for God's sake. You know, like, you look at them and you think, you know, it makes a difference. It really does make a difference.
Just last month, UN officials warned that Rwanda may face even more fighting in the future, and there are still over 2 million refugees who are afraid to go home.